We are recording Judy Wagoner's, my mother's, 7th interview today. And today we are going to talk about, at least start talking about, her experience in Normal, Illinois.
Okay, we moved to Normal when Doris was just about, how old, 7 or 8?
Yeah, I was going to the 3rd grade, so probably 8.
Okay, and so we lived on in Normal, Illinois. It's called Normal, Illinois because Illinois State University is there, and that started back in the 1800s. And in 1800s, a university that dealt with teacher training was called a normal school, and so from that name came the city of Normal. And it's connected to Bloomington, Illinois. They're sister cities. And so we moved to Normal. We found a lovely bi-level home. It was dark brown color in a subdivision there in Normal. And it was kind of slightly on a curve and built up kind of high. And it's a good thing because in the summertime when you have these terrible, terrible storms, the streets would flood in that area. And I can remember the neighbors across the street, which are down lower than us, I can remember seeing them bail out their basement several times. And but anyway, we had a really nice home. We were proud of it, a big 2-car garage and just a lot of extra storage there. We had several rooms in the house. We had a great, big, huge family room, and that was nice. It was had a multi-color shag carpet in it at the time. This was in the 80s. I don't remember exactly what year. And it had dark brown paneling in that big family room, and we had nice, we bought a lot of new furniture. We had a nice set, had wooden arms, and it was a big couch and a settee and a chair and some other things down there. And then we also had, Darwin had bought, when we lived at Tarpon Springs, he had bought an old...
Taylorville.
He bought it at Taylorville?
Yeah, because Tarpon Springs is down here.
Oh. We had it in Tarpon Springs. Okay, prior to that then, Darwin had bought an old Western themed pinball machine. And we had that in the corner down there, and every time we'd have a party or people would come, they loved that pinball machine. And I can remember hours and hours of Darwin having the thing apart down inside of it, fixing up all that wiring that went into it because something was always going wrong with it. It was old.
I think that might have been 1978 and 79.
Something like that, yeah. And but he had a good time with it, and everybody else did too. But anyway, that was down there because it was so big. And when you walked in the front door of that house, well, you stepped up a little bit to get into the house. There was a concrete landing. And then you walked in, and you could either climb the stairs to go up to the left, or you could have gone downstairs to the right, and that entered right directly into that big family room. And then when we first moved there, Darwin needed a den, of course. He always was in the computer, and in his jobs, he always had plenty of files and things that he had to maintain. And so he took the room that was, the downstairs was divided. It was a huge, big family room, but it was divided into 2 sections. And on the front section of that other side, Darwin made a nice office out of that. It was real nice. He paneled, we papered the bottom half of that room, and the top was, I don't know what it was. Anyway, it was nice. It was real pretty. And then the stairs went down, and then you could go down into the family room and then turn immediately to the left and go into his den. And then there was a lot of storage under those stairs. It was really a convenient house. And he had that den fixed up so cute. had the big roll top desk in it, and I had, at that time, I had a very, very old school desk, which was the old type that had the attached seat to the front, where the seat was on the front part that I had, and then there was another desk attached to the seat, so it was kind of, anyway, I put that down there, and that looked cute. So, and then under the stairs we had a bunch of shelves that we moved in that we had, and so we put all of Doris's little books under there, and just a whole lot of other books that we didn't need upstairs in our bookshelf, and then of course, in the family room against the opposite wall from where you walked in was an area had a couple of built-in cabinets, which were nice, built out of the paneling and real deep, and we used to keep all the Christmas decorations in there. It was just really a nice place to have things. And so a year or so after we moved into there, we decided we needed a fireplace down there. And so Darwin had a guy come and build it. He put a fireplace. It was a gas fireplace down there. And then it was so pretty. It was all brick and real pretty. And it had a build-up area up to it, and it was just really pretty. And we enjoyed that a lot. I spent a lot of time sitting down there with the fire going. And of course, we had a TV in one of those cabinets there, so you could sit and watch TV too if you wanted. And also in that family room, I had some antique furniture in there. Had an antique table and just cute things. And had an antique sewing machine down there, which I used as a table when I had company. I used it to serve from. And then the front part of that other section downstairs was a great big utility room. It was really nice. The washer and dryer were down there, and the furnace and water heater and all of that was in there. And then we had Darwin had bought a bunch of cabinetry from a store that was going out of business, and he put it all in one area, on one wall of that room, and we had tons of place to store things. We could put winter coats down there. We buy extra food, canned food sometimes. We put that down there, and just really, it was a nice place. And we had a deep freeze that went at one end. It was an upright, and it was just a real convenient home. And after a while, I decided that I needed to have a better access from my laundry downstairs and from upstairs, I should say from the upstairs, so that we could put our dirty clothes into the laundry more conveniently. And so Darwin fixed a hole, built a nice hole built in from beside the stool in our big bathroom upstairs, and we could open a little door and throw our dirty clothes down there and our towels and everything. It would go right down there into a laundry basket and right beside the washer and dryer, and it was so convenient. And then so we really enjoyed that. And then at one end, at the back of the house, one end of that utility room, then there was steps that led up just a little bit, and that went right into the garage, and that was real convenient because we never had to go outside if we didn't want to, and the cars were parked right in there, and it was real big area, so we had lots of area to store things and shelving and everything like that. So upstairs then, when you walked in, you walked up the stairs, you walked right into the living room upstairs, and it was a big bay window, and we had a real pretty brocade couch there, and I had my piano in that area, and some other chairs, and then there was a wide open door immediately to the right, which was along on the back of the house. It went into the kitchen, which was on the back of the house. And the kitchen was nice. And not long after we moved there, we put in new cabinetry, which was solid oak, and it was beautiful. It was just nice. What was there was all right, but this was really, really attractive. And we had our table there, and chairs, and refrigerator, and everything else was all built in there, and that was real convenient. And then there was a door going outside upstairs there. See, we were quite a ways off the ground by that time. And a door going out, and it had big double glass doors there, and it stepped out onto a deck. And a year or so later, or a few years, Darwin built I guess you'd call it a fence, wall-like thing around the deck to where you could sit out there and have a lot of privacy, because we were right in the middle of a subdivision and houses right behind us. And so, and then that deck was real nice, and we had stairs going down to the ground from the deck, and it had a nice backyard, not a huge yard, but a nice one. And that yard was kind of a rectangular shape, and so I, always enjoyed growing plants and flowers and things, and so I decided at one point I would put some landscaping back there. There was a sycamore tree, I think, back there. And then, of course, there was the usual typical stuff like you have from the cable company or the electric company, the box thing, was back there. And so I fixed the back part of the yard up, which went back to a point, and squared that off. And I I didn't put a fence in or anything like that, but I did use landscaping, and I got this advice from my next door neighbor there. She was an older retired teacher, and I talked to her a lot about it, and she liked to landscape stuff. And she told me once, she said, just take a shovel and take the grass and just turn it over. And she said that'll be good mulch and everything for the garden you want to put in. And so I did that, and then of course I added some topsoil with it and some manure and things like that to make it fertile. And so I planted, every year I would plant seed, Elysium, all the way around that, and made a beautiful border, around at the back of the yard. And then I had also put a few little, very, very low growing evergreen plants back there, so that in the winter, when we couldn't raise any, pretty plants back there, it would still be pretty. And then I would put different kinds of plants back there, and it was real pretty. I just thoroughly enjoyed that area. And then up closer to the house, when we moved there was a great big sandbox, and it had railroad ties around it. And so it was a real nice area. Well, Doris was old enough that she didn't want to play in it. She was in middle school and high school, and she
wasn't in high school yet, but
well, yeah,
middle school
when you were in
elementary
grade school when
yeah.
we moved there. But as the years passed, she didn't, she never did anything with it. And so my grandmother passed away, and outside her kitchen window, she had a devil's walking stick tree, and small ones would come up very easily from that tree. It was out there. It's extremely sticky. You can't handle the trunk of it. It was full of spines. And but anyway, since she always had that tree, and it isn't the kind of tree that grows huge, and so I was at her house one day, and I got a start of that tree. So I planted one of those. We added soil and to the sand, and about the only people that ever used that sandbox were the local cats. And so we added all the things we needed to make it into a nice garden, and that was my herb garden. I had all kinds of herbs back there, and it was so lovely, and it had just enough shade from that devil's walking stick to And it was fairly easy to take care of. The devil's walking stick, I had to constantly cut that off because the new ones would come up from the basic. That's a very prolific plant. And not most people wouldn't want one in their yard, but I did because Grandma had one. And so anyway, that was nice. And so under the deck, which was quite, you could walk under it. It was pretty tall. And so under that, there had been a little swing for a little kid under there. And so we decided we'd leave that little swing under there. And I decided that I'd like to have a rock patio under it. And so I dug it out. I hired a high school kid to come and help me, but he decided it was too hot to do, too much work to do. And his mother called me and said it was just too hard work. I said, well, I do it. But anyway, so I went ahead and did it all myself. I dug it all out and hauled all of that soil to the front of the yard, at the very front of our house was 2 years old when we moved there. So construction was still around in a sense. And the very front corner of our yard, we could never get a whole lot of plants or anything to grow there, not even the grass much. It just didn't look good. And so I decided I would take that soil that I dug up underneath the deck and take it out there and put it in, fill that area in. And Darwin got some more railroad ties, and we cut them up with, made a pretty jagged fence just up so far so that, you could walk, the yard continued on, but it was a little bit of a hill after that. And that's when we got lots of things to grow there. But before, somebody told me that they thought the construction people had just dumped a bunch of stuff in there, they do plaster and paint and anything else, they'll dump in a hole somewhere. And so anyway, it was always real pretty there. We put some big evergreen plants out there, and it was a real pretty little area then. And the front of the house, I thought it was landscaped nice when we first moved there, but Darwin didn't like it. It was too natural looking. Had a beautiful little Japanese maple out there, which was pretty. They were kind of a pretty colored leaf. But anyway, so he took all that out and repotted it, and everything was very symmetrical. But it looked very nice. He put in new evergreens and everything. The little Japanese tree died, of course. But anyway, that looked real pretty. We had nice. And a few years after that, we put in some shade trees in the front. And our neighbor had put in that, I can't think of the name of that tree, had put in those in his yard. And so we went ahead and got some of the same kind, and put in our yard, and they're big things now. So anyway, back into the house. I told you about the kitchen, I told you about the upstairs, and then we had a big bathroom down the hall. There was a hallway running from the living room down to the bedrooms, and there was a big closet right there above the stairway, and then there was the bathroom across from that, and it was a pretty bathroom, just a regular bathroom, nice size. And then beyond that, the other corner of the house, which would have been the west corner, I'm not real sure the directions. Anyway, the other corner of the house was right next to the bathroom, and that was our bedroom, mine and Darwin's bedroom. It was a real nice big room, and we put our furniture in it and everything. Had a window facing both directions from it. And then across from that was another bedroom, and that was Doris's bedroom. And after a year or two, we put new furniture in her, when we moved there, we moved in her, what do we call that? It's white,
There was a canopy, I know.
Yeah, I had a canopy bed and just a beautiful bedroom set for a little girl. It had built a bunch of dresser and a dresser and a desk built in and all kinds of things that matched that furniture. It was beautiful, and we put that in her room there. And then coming back toward the living room was the smallest bedroom, and that was our guest room. And in that room, we had an antique bed that we had, and I usually put a quilt, a pretty thing that Mother had made on it, and then we had an old antique oak chest of drawers, which looks similar to the gray one that Doris and Dawn have, and it was it had belonged to Jeff Gray's grandmother, and when she died, they gave it to me. And I had that for a long time there, and then later when I moved, I gave that to Gloria, and I think she said Jeffrey has it today at his house. So anyway, that was all, and it was beside a closet in there. Of course, that room was pretty little, and that was all you could get in that room. We had the bed in there at an angle. It was so cute, such a cute little room. So that's the upstairs, and it all had carpeting. It was all carpeted, except for the kitchen and the bathrooms. And downstairs was all carpeted, except for that laundry room. It wasn't. And it was so cute. We had Tyson, was our kitty cat at the time. He was so cute. And he loved it, of course. He loved the house, and he liked to get outside too. I had to watch him. I put a collar and leash on him and put him out the back door, and he'd go out there. He would catch little moles or whatever was in the yard, you know. And what's I going to tell you about him? Oh, the laundry. When we would throw our laundry down that little hole from the living room,
Laundry
from the
chute.
bathroom, the laundry chute. It was so cute. He would go into the bathroom, and the laundry chute had a thing around it, but it didn't have a door. It was just kind of open, I think, where you could just drop your clothes down there and just slid right down. Well, Tyson figured out how to climb down into the laundry chute and hang on to that, and then get up in between the ceiling and the floor from upstairs, so he could get into that. It had, one of those lowered ceilings like they put in houses, and so he would get in there, and you could hear him walking around in it, he thought that was fun. That was his favorite place to go. Okay, and that's where we lived. Now that we had it was right, the subdivision where we lived in was a very big new subdivision out there on the west side of the northwest side of where did we live at the time?
Normal.
Yeah, Normal. And so, and out there they also had a big park called Fairview Park, and that's where I'd see that Doris took swim lessons there every summer, and she liked to go out there with her friends. And her she went to Oakdale Elementary School, which was in town a little ways, and we would take her, and then she said sometimes she walked home, and I guess it wasn't that far. And then when she went to middle school, up there they called it junior high.
Parkside.
Yeah, it was Parkside Junior High, and it was a beautiful brand new school too. And it was still a little walk, but she could walk home. It was right in our subdivision, and so she didn't always walk home. I always picked her up if I was home. But of course, I was teaching at the time. I taught at Brigham, and then I taught at what came after Brigham?
I know you substituted.
Yeah, I did a lot of subbing. Brigham was in Bloomington, which around on the south side of Bloomington, but it was in the Normal school district. And I substituted a lot in Bloomington. and then I got on staff and taught at Brigham. I guess I taught there until I moved, isn't that right? Must have been. And then, so if I had time, I would, if I could do that. And then, of course, when Doris was in middle school and high school, or middle school, she was she was on the basketball team. And
No, that was elementary was basketball and volleyball.
Oh, was that elementary? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And middle school was orchestra and choir.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so that, you could hear that, so that's what she did there. And, so anyway, if she had a ball game or something like that to go to,
Concert.
I would usually be able to go to it, because it was always after school, and I could still go to that. And I'd always take her, I'd go with her. Darwin too, a lot, if he could get off to go. Now, at that time, we moved to Bloomington, Normal, because Darwin was promoted to the Illinois Agricultural Association, and they had a great big multi-story building there on the east side of Bloomington. And so he worked there, had a lovely office and a lot of important people and a lot of important things to do, and did a lot of traveling and was speaking and just traveling around. And he was the director of Young Farmers Activities the whole time throughout the state, and that kept him real busy. And so, and we went to church then at the Presbyterian, at the, gosh, I can't remember, was it the first Presbyterian or the second?
I don't
It was
remember.
First Pres, I think. And the second Presbyterian church, there was a second Presbyterian church, I think it was the bigger one somewhere, but our church was big. Anyway, our church, Presbyterian church, there was it was right across the street from campus. And so it was a big deal for having a lot of college students. And we enjoyed that.
It was right next to the library too.
The city, which one? The city library or the,
One of the public libraries.
really?
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. And then, I knew we went to the library, but I didn't remember where it was. And then, that was a lovely old brick church, and had a big organ and big balcony, and I sang in the choir there for quite a while. And we started at that place. We started a Mariner group. We came from a Mariner group at Hardin, and then we started a Mariner group at that church there, and it was a real successful thing. We had a lot of wonderful people in it, and we just did a lot of fun things. And it was a lovely church, nice people there, and we enjoyed it a lot. We always went out to eat somewhere special after our church service on Sunday, and it was nice. And we'd have the Mariner meetings, and our family room was big enough that we'd have a lot of parties. We aren't party people, so we'd have parties for every season maybe or something, it wasn't that much. But anyway, we'd have the Mariners over some, and we'd have just the family in at Christmas, every Christmas, about Christmas Eve, we'd have the family, my family all in, because they were close enough they could drive over. They lived in Monticello, which wasn't that far away from Bloomington. And then, of course, my parents were always up there. We'd always have them come up and stay with us. And so that was nice. And then have a big Christmas tree down in the family room. And I also put a small Christmas tree up in the bay window every year, too. I was trying to think, I was telling you something else about Tyson. I guess not. Oh, our next door neighbors in Normal. I can't remember their names now, of course, but they were nice. After a couple of years, they moved to Florida, and but anyway, they were there, and they had a big yellow tomcat, and they named him, of course, what was the big yellow cat? Morris. And so anyway, Tyson hated him. Tyson couldn't stand any other animal, and they did scrap a few times, and that was always something because Morris was able to go in and out as much as he wanted.
I think that might have been the Humes.
What were their names?
Hume, Hume,
Might have been.
and their son David was my age.
Okay, I knew they had a boy. All right, and then while we were there, I continued working on my master's degree and finished it. And of course, Darwin already had his master's degree and working. And Doris went from elementary at Oakdale up to Parkside in middle school we're in our subdivision. And it was a middle school that went the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And so she took, I guess at the end of the 8th grade, isn't that right? We moved to Florida.
No, end of 9th grade.
End of 9th.
I finished junior high up
finished
there.
junior high. Okay. And so we moved to Florida at that time, and
It was 1984.
something like that. And we moved to Tarpon Springs, Florida, because we had friends that lived there. And by the way, while we were living at Normal, Darwin became involved in selling real estate on the side with Steve Anderson, a buddy of his, and they sold real estate, got along real well, and so then the real estate market up there was not doing well, and so Darwin decided that we needed to move, and he had other friends that were in real estate that had moved to Florida, and it was a real good market down here in Florida at that time, and so they convinced him that he ought to move to Florida, and they lived in Tarpon Springs. And so we moved to Tarpon Springs and found an absolutely lovely home to rent in a little subdivision right on the Gulf. And it was just beautiful. And the house,
block from the beach.
Yeah. And there was a big causeway driving out to the beach, which was right there. And the beach was kind of like a T shape out there in the water, and it was just beautiful. And we lived close to it. We used to walk out there, ride our bikes out there, and
Fred Howard Park.
yeah. And so we lived in our house was real pretty. It wasn't well, it was a pretty good sized home, I guess. We had a pool,
It was
which
3
Doris
bedroom.
enjoyed. Yeah, it was a 3-bedroom home. It was lovely. It was a lovely home. It had been decorated beautifully. And so we lived there for quite a while. And for how many years?
3 years.
3 years. Yeah, I'm glad you're in here because I can't remember these things. And then we decided, well, at that time, Doris had started college at Eckerd College, which was in
I did high
well, she
school.
finished high school, yes, graduated from high school, and was active in the youth group at church, and she...
Well, I didn't graduate from high school yet. We moved down when I just started going to high school. High school in Florida is 9th through 12th grade,
Yeah.
so I moved down at the beginning of 10th grade.
Yeah, at the beginning of your high school
Right.
career, right. So you were a sophomore down here in Florida.
Yes.
And then at the end of her senior year, she graduated from high school down there and in Normal. And
No, in Tarpon Springs.
that's right.
And you taught at the middle school.
Not Parkside though.
No, you were talking about how we moved to Florida in Tarpon Springs.
Oh yeah. Well, we lived in Tarpon Springs. I taught at the middle school there in Tarpon Springs, just right down the street from where we lived. That was nice. I walked to school most of the time. And
Dad continued with houses, but he worked for developers.
yeah, he did. He stayed in real estate, but he was working through developers at the time. Yes. And then, okay.
He worked for McConey Homes,
Well, that was later.
and then Arthur Ruttenberg.
He worked first of all for Arthur Ruttenberg Homes down there in Tarpon, or well in that area, in Pinellas County, I should say. And then he went to McConey Homes. One of the McConeys, what was her name?
My friend was Michelle.
Michelle, what was her mom's name?
Terry.
Terry, yeah. We went to church with them. And then, okay, now I need to decide where I am.
So I was in high school in Tarpon Springs, and you were teaching at the middle school, and Dad was working for developers.
Okay,
and
then we moved to Normal, and I described the house in Normal.
No, and then after Tarpon Springs, I chose to go to Eckerd College in St.
Oh, that's
Petersburg.
right. Okay.
So we moved
That's
to Bardmore in Largo.
Yeah, that's right. When we had been living at Normal, we moved to Pinellas County in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yes, we lived at Bardmore, which was...
After Tarpon Springs.
Well, we moved to Tarpon Springs, and then we moved to Bard, and that was what I was starting to tell you a minute ago.
Largo.
I got sidetracked. And we moved to Bardmore, which was a golf course community, and rented a condo there. It was beautiful.
A townhome.
Right, a townhome. Yeah, it was right on the golf course. And
They used to have the professional golf championships
right
behind our house.
Yeah, they
Jack
did.
Nicholas or whatever.
Yeah. That was fun. They had a lot of people out there at that time. And that was a nice place to live. We had one side of it was just a lot of windows, you know. It was upstairs. Our bedroom was upstairs, and then Doris's bedroom was also upstairs. And there was a bathroom off of our bedroom and one near her bedroom. And then the stairway we had a stairway going down to the kitchen area, down and
To the front door.
to the front doors, yeah. And the small kitchen and with a dining room with glassed-in wall light that looked out on the lanai, which looked out on the golf course. And then the living room right beside it, and it was nice. We had nice neighbors, Bill and Eileen, and then
There was also a den off the back side of the kitchen.
as you walked down a walkway from where you could park your car to our front door, you walked past the side of the garage, and then to a little like family room thing, which was all glassed in. You remember that?
Yeah.
And we
Well, it was the den.
well, yeah, but we had a couch, and we had our desk in there and things like that, but it could have been a little family room too. And so it was nice. It was very, very nice. And we enjoyed living there. We used to like to take walks on the golf course in the evening, you know, after they weren't playing, you know. You don't want to go out there when they're playing. Because
They had fox squirrels.
Yeah, the fox
Really
squirrels
cute and friendly.
big. They looked like monkeys. They were big, and it was funny. I'd sit out on my lanai and watch a lot that went on the golf course, and because I had some time off sometimes, and those squirrels would get in the golf carts and rummage for food and steal any food they had in the golf, which they always had food in their golf carts, and but it was just lovely. And Doris had a boyfriend from our church.
That was when I was in high school. That was when I lived in Tarpon Springs.
Yeah.
Chet.
I thought he used to come
Chet
visit
Hale.
us down there, didn't he? Still?
I mean, we were friends. He would
okay.
visit us occasionally, but most of the time
So when
he
we
was in Tarpon Springs.
Right, and when we had moved to Bardmore, Doris was commuting to Eckerd College
In St.
every day,
Petersburg,
which
yeah.
was down in the very southern part, right on the water of Pinellas County, south of St. Petersburg. And it was a lovely college, a liberal arts college, and a small college. And she worked there, and she was in music program there.
Choir.
And was in, and what was the thing you were in with the Christmas?
Oh, well, the choir did madrigals
Yes,
one year.
madrigals, yes,
Yeah.
that was really interesting. We had Mother and Dad come down, and we all got to see her perform in that. And then, of course, it was a meal, and they served grease. All the members of the cast had to serve us, and it was just lovely. It was fun, and while we lived in Bloomington, we used to like to go on to Illinois State, which was just real close to us. I mean, we were just right in that college town. Normal was a college town, and they would have madrigals there, and they were really fascinating. Let me tell you. And they had the sci-fi circus was there every year, and that was just like a huge big circus.
Gamma
except
Phi,
with
yeah.
It was Gamma Phi. What did I say? Sci-fi. Gamma Phi circus.
That was in Normal, yeah.
And Normal, and it was very professionally done. The Gamma Phi students every year worked year round on that, and I mean they didn't ever have animals in that circus, but they had everything else, just everything that was in a circus. And we still continued that while we were living there.
And also, when I was in college at Eckerd, I took opera workshop at St. Petersburg Junior College, and also joined the Tampa Bay Opera Corporation. And so we did madrigals through that as well.
That's right, I forgot about
Like in Hyde Park and places like that.
Good. Well, there's a lot that you could fill in, at this time, so you need to go back over this too. All right, and so, okay, we were living then at Bardmore. And then, and the reason we moved to Bardmore in the first place was that Doris was driving south to go to Eckerd. Isn't this right?
Yeah, we decided to save money by me commuting versus living.
Oh, it's so expensive.
Yeah, the liberal arts colleges are expensive.
And then Darwin was at that time working in real estate and for the developer. He was just all over the county, and in Tampa all the time. And so we just decided we would just move down, and that's why we left that home in Tarpon and moved to Bardmore. And so then after Bardmore. And while we lived in Bardmore, we still went back to our church in Palm Harbor, which was the Presbyterian Church of Palm Harbor, probably once a month. But we would also go to other Presbyterian or other churches in that area, just visiting to see if we could find one. So then we decided to move to Florida, and
we were already in Florida.
I mean to
Dunedin. But while we were living in Largo, you were working for Seminole.
Yes,
Middle
Middle School. I taught Seminole Middle School. I just figured up today how many years that was. I taught in Seminole Middle School for, I think, 11 or 12 years down there. And then you were still... And then I transferred to
Palm Harbor Middle after we moved to Dunedin. And we moved to Dunedin my senior year of college.
All right, that's what I was trying to think of. Okay, and then we moved to and found just a beautiful home in Dunedin in a wonderful little subdivision. Maybe there were 40 homes in it, and all wooded and shady, and it was just beautiful. And we had a third of an acre, and it was a big, low brick home, and had a real pretty ornate area for a front porch, which was not enclosed. It was all open, and had a big bay window in the living room that you walked into, with big double doors. And then when you walked into the living room, if you went straight on that hallway, there was a big bathroom down at the end, and then to the right of that bathroom was one of the smaller bedrooms, and that was the one that I adopted as my den. I put my desk in there, and I had my everything in there, and all my books and things like that, and it was handy. I spent every day in there while I was teaching. I'd come home and do my work there. And then right next to that was another smaller bedroom. It was maybe the smallest bedroom, I guess. And that's the one Darwin took for his den. And he had the big roll top desk in there, and it had a window looking out into some bushes. And he used to feed the squirrels out there, and then, well, I'll tell you about the raccoons in a minute. But anyway, his room was nice. He had bookshelves in there, and we had our antique fireplace in there at the time. Everywhere we lived, we had that antique fireplace. I think we had that antique fireplace when we lived in Normal, did we? Do you remember?
I think so.
Anyway, I don't think we did, because I don't know what room it would have been in at Normal. So anyway, that antique fireplace was in Darwin's den. And then further down to the front of the house was a bigger bedroom. And that was Doris's bedroom. It had real pretty wallpaper, and it was just a beautiful room. Had a nice big window in it, and a big closet, and she had her bed in it, and it was just a beautiful place. And so, and then of course, right next to that, you know, that from her bedroom up to the bathroom, that was the hallway there, and so we enjoyed living there so much. But in the family room then, which was beside the kitchen, well, I should say, when you walked, I told you we walked in the double doors in the front of the house into the living room. And my piano sat right there, and then we had our furniture there. We had a big bay window there. And then going straight through, we went into the dining room, and we had a table or pretty table and chairs and a china cabinet, and then it was more or less walk through. And beside that was the kitchen, which wasn't a real big kitchen. It wasn't a great big eat-in kitchen. It was just but it was bigger than most little kitchens. I did have a little tiny settee, a little tiny table and chairs there.
And it was open to the family room.
Right, had a big open area into the family room, and the family room is across the back of the house, quite a ways, and it I should have figured it out, north, south, east, and west, but anyway, to the side of the family room was a big lanai, a really big lanai. It was really nice, all screened in, and we had some wicker furniture out there, and a table and chairs, and it was just lovely. And then beyond that, there was an outdoor patio, and then of course the woods. And so the family room was just sold me on it. It and we bought that house, and it just sold me on that house. The woodwork in the kitchen was beautiful. I loved it, and it was a convenient kitchen. And then the family room was so pretty. It was all paneled, but it was paneled with knotty pine at an angle. It was all angled, and it had nice big windows in it. And then of course it had the big double glass doors going out onto the lanai. And at one end of it, then facing into the other part, the open part of the house, which when you walked in the door you could see it, was a great big floor-to-ceiling fireplace. And it was a stone fireplace. It was so pretty, and it had some windows beside the fireplace. And it was a regular wood-burning fireplace, which we loved. It was built up a little bit. The whole place was carpeted. It was just built up a little bit, you know. You could sit on that, I don't know what you call it, the little area in front of the fireplace. It was a big area. And
there were big wooden beams in the
big beams in the
room.
ceiling, yeah, and had a plate rail all the way around it, the room, and a big. It was a big kind of a walkway in. I mean, a door, a big open door from the dining room into the family room too. So it was all open in that area, and the family room went up to a peak. It was. The ceiling was high, open into that, and it was kind of home you dream about, you know. I wish we still had it.
Except for the spiders.
Yeah, and they told me that those beams would bring the spiders because they were hollow. They weren't solid wood beams, and then but we spent a lot of time, and they had a big TV, great big TV in there, and I had an antique table and chairs, small antique breakfast set, antique oak table and chairs that I had on one side of that area, and we had a big sectional couch, yeah. And then we had, there was a bar in front of the open area from the kitchen, and we could sit there, and we had some bar stools along there, and we'd eat there occasionally. It was just lovely, a lovely home.
We went out to the lanai.
Yeah, the lanai was nice. It was big, and like I said, we had the wicker furniture out there, and it was just real pretty. It had a table and chairs. We'd go out there a lot. We were out there just a lot.
And then there was the greenhouse.
Yes, at the end of the lanai was another door going out. The lanai was all screen, and then there was a glass greenhouse at the end of the lanai, which was pretty good sized. And it had a door, a glass door going into
the family room, and also to your
yeah,
bedroom.
Yes, and then right off the lanai into our bedroom was French doors, and our bedroom was there, and our bedroom had a closet all along one wall, and it was just real nice, nice big sized room, and then there was a door going out right beside that closet that went out into the garage area. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It went into a small bathroom. It was real convenient. And then the door from the bathroom went into the garage area. And there was also an outdoor entrance to the garage right there too that you could walk in. Besides, the garage door was there too. So it was just a convenient place. That garage was a two and a half car garage, and it had built-in kitchen cabinets of all things. Almost all along one wall under the window that looked out onto the street and the front yard. And then on this side, right beside our bedroom, was the water heater and things like that. And we had a built-in closet there. And it was so nice. And then of course there was a door going into the dining room from the garage, and as you walked into the house from the garage and that door, you walked right beside a huge laundry closet, and so we had our washer and dryer right there. It had all built-in cabinets inside of it, and it was real, had a fold-down ironing board right there, and then, and if you went straight right in that little tiny hall, you went right into our bedroom. But if you turned right, it was all open from that door into the living room and the dining room right there. And of course, then into the family room. So it was all open in through there. And you could walk them across the dining room into the kitchen, is the way it was set up. I know that's confusing to tell somebody, but
Caris by Dove lived in your greenhouse.
Yeah, Doris and Dawn had a white dove when she was in seminary, and Caris would be free in the rooms occasionally. And one day she was flying around in their bedroom, and Dawn had a glass of water sitting there by the bed, and she perched on it and went to the bathroom in the
She did that more than once.
And so anyway, they decided to give her away. That wasn't the only reason, but she needed some space.
Well, we brought her with us when I graduated from seminary.
Right.
And we lived at your place for 9 months until Dawn got into
Was it that
Florida
long?
Tech.
You lived with us for 9 months at.
Dawn got into Florida Tech, and
now
so we
wait,
moved there.
where did you live? Where were we?
Dunedin.
In Dunedin, right.
So we had brought
that makes sense.
Caris with us, and then when we moved to Florida Tech in Melbourne, we were not allowed to, or no, we were going to bring Caris, but she got attached to the greenhouse.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to tear her away from the greenhouse.
She needed a bigger area. And the greenhouse was so perfect for her because a dove is a pretty good sized bird, and it's not like having a little parakeet. And we loved her, of course, but letting her into the greenhouse, I kept the cage there for her and kept it open for her anytime she wanted to go into it. But she was into the greenhouse, and the greenhouse had a couple of windows on it where it had screens on it, and the door and everything, and so it didn't get that terribly hot. Plus there were some trees around. And so, and it was a floor, it had mulch on the floor. It didn't have a solid floor, which a couple times we got snakes in there. We had to toss them out into the backyard, and the blue jays went crazy. But anyway, we always had lots of birds there. But she really thrived in that greenhouse.
Sometimes she would eat the plants.
She what?
Sometimes she would eat the plants.
Oh yeah, she would sometimes. She
And
had
then
her freedom.
You had a great big backyard.
Yeah, it was a third of an acre, the whole thing, and yeah, we had a nice big backyard. It was all fenced in with a wooden fence, and across the backyard, we had Darwin fixed a long area where we had a lot of plants growing and things like that, and had a pathway back to the back of the yard, and then in the other backyard on the other side, of course it was all fenced in, like I said, and it was a kind of an open area where there could have been a room built, except right beside my den and the kitchen. It was open, and the people that lived there before had planted about 30, or was it 30? No, that's too many. I don't know. Had planted a bunch of citrus trees.
About 3, I think.
Oh no, there were more than 3, but I don't know how many. And it was a big area, and they had a whole bunch of rose bushes out there too at the time, but they didn't do well. And the trees, we had oranges, and had a lemon tree, had a grapefruit tree, 2 or 3 orange trees, I don't know, that kind of thing. And it was kind of nice to have that. All right, now that was where we lived in Dunedin.
Yeah, and you had brought Tyson down with you from Normal, so you still had Tyson.
Tyson lived
And
there.
then after a couple of years, Don and I, after seminary, while we were living with you, we adopted a Seal Point Siamese kitten named Leif. And
I don't think we had Tyson at that time. Tyson
yeah,
died.
you did.
Yeah, he died.
No.
I did.
You had Tyson. You still had Tyson because he was pretty old.
The vet was at.
You still had Tyson, and then after we moved to Florida Tech, we took Leif with us, and you adopted Leif's mother, Mona. And I want to say Mona and Tyson were together about 6 months before Tyson died.
Okay. All right.
So you had Mona when you lived in Dunedin. And you were close to your neighbors there too.
Yeah, we used to have parties, all of us around that neighborhood. It was fun. It had a lovely place to walk. Darwin and I walked every morning, probably for 25 years. Every morning down. There was a road right beside our subdivision that went back, and it was nobody lived along it, and there were a couple of areas, well, maybe 2 or 3 houses along that road. It was paved, but and it went way back to the end and stopped. There was a place at the end, and we were next to another really nice subdivision there too, and we walked on that road, I suppose, every morning of all those years. At 6:30 every morning.
When Don and I lived there, we would walk back past a farm and down, it's kind of like a little country road next to the subdivision with a stream running underneath it.
Very
And we would walk past the farms, a couple of farms, and then into another subdivision and walk. And one of the farms had guinea hens.
Well,
and
that I'll explain about that. It wasn't really a farm. It looked like a
It
farm.
was like a hobby farm.
Yeah, it was, maybe it was. It did have guineas and things. But they had built a house that looked like a barn. It's what it was. That was their home, but it was made to look like a barn. So it was just a lovely. Dunedin is a wonderful town to live in. It's a beautiful area, beautiful big old trees. It's different it was on the Gulf side of Florida, and everything over there is different from the ocean side of Florida. The plants and everything is just different. The trees and everything. A lot of big old trees over there in Dunedin.
We used to, just like in Tarpon Springs, we would eat the Greek food and enjoy the Greek culture. In Dunedin, we would go to the Highland Games.
Yeah.
In the big park nearby, when they would have that once a year. That was fun. And we would also go down to Dunedin Causeway and Honeymoon Island and the beaches out there.
Go out to the Gulf. Yeah, that was a lovely place. Like I said, Dunedin was just the ideal community. I would recommend that to anybody to live there. There's a lot of traffic in Pinellas County, but Dunedin is, and it is on the Gulf side.
Also, when we lived in Pinellas County, the latter years, they created the Pinellas Trail, which went the entire length of the county. And so we walked most of that.
Yeah, that was lovely. And
That was
that
fun.
trail went right through downtown Dunedin. And there's a lot of antique shops that they've always been along there in Dunedin. And Palm Harbor, real quaint little cities, little towns there.
And we would go to Countryside Mall quite a bit. That was the main mall that was there. It had an
Nice.
ice rink and lots of nice stores and a food court.
Darwin and I used to like to go to, on Saturday morning, we'd go down to the ice rink. They had tables around it where you could sit, and we'd get coffee and sit there and watch them. And they gave a lot of, they used to give lessons, well, I'm sure they still do. They would give lessons and things, and there were always people out there skating, on that ice rink. It was so enjoyable. It was just lovely.
Don and I used to walk a lot, and when I was dating Chris before Don, we did the same on Clearwater Beach at night. It was really nice. We found a little nook to park, which you'd never find now because
Yeah.
it's so busy and lots of tourists, very populated. But there was a little nook nearby that we could park for free, and we would walk several miles on the beach at night, and it was really, really nice.
It is. Clearwater Beach is very crowded, very touristy, but it is nice. And the sand is beautiful, white sand, it's beautiful. The Dunedin, I'm trying to think, the Dunedin Causeway went out to, what was the name of that island?
Honeymoon Island.
Yeah, Honeymoon Island. And there was also another island out there, remember, where you had to take-
Caladesi Island.
Caladesi, right.
Which
And
was like in the top 10 of the country
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. And we would take, it was a smaller island, and we would take the ferry out to it. There was a boat that would go out there, and that was fun. It
There was
just-
always sand dollars
Yeah.
in the water there.
And at Christmas time, all of the towns had big Christmas parades and light parades, and that was nice. And of course, the 4th of July fireworks. It used to be fun. We would go out and go to the parks or whatever. And then if you were out along, a lot of them were right along the Gulf, so we'd sit there and then we'd see the fireworks from the next 3 or 4, 5 beach towns all down the Gulf, because it was all on the water, it was so, what a lovely place to live, it really was.
We would visit the Clearwater Marine Science Center where Winter the Dolphin was, and that's expanded a lot now. And
Ruth Eckerd Hall was a big
go to concerts
auditorium
there.
for concerts. Yeah.
Don and I went to a lot of
Grace
concerts.
performed there several times. Remember?
And we would go to the St. Petersburg Pier, which is no longer there,
Is it really? It's
or
gone?
at least it's not open to the public.
Really?
Yeah, for a while
That
now.
was beautiful.
And we would go to the Suncoast Seabird Sanctuary.
That was nice, and it's still there. I saw it not long ago on the news.
And then later the Florida Aquarium opened up in Tampa. We would go there. We'd go to Busch Gardens, which was really nice.
And then, of course, at the south end of the whole county was the Skyway Bridge, which connected from St. Petersburg down to where? Long way. And it was a beautiful, absolutely beautiful thing. Lit up at night. It was so pretty. And so
It was a very
lovely
busy
place.
county, very
Yeah,
busy
it
county.
was. A lot of people there. It's a small county.
Lots of tourism, both Pinellas and Hillsborough counties.
But it was so lovely. And, so,
Okay.
all right, and then from there we moved to Largo.
West Melbourne.
Well,
From Dunedin to West Melbourne for you and Dad. And Dawn and I were already
Sounds
over
right.
here at Florida Tech. So we'll talk about that next time if we've covered everything
all right.
through Dunedin.
Okay.
Thank you.